Because of roster situation or injuries, there's some players who are going to have an expanded role to carry their team. At times, they are going to have to make up for other players' mistakes so their team can have success. These 6 players I'm going to talk about are going to have some pressure to carry the offense or defense and just make their teams better. Appreciate everybody who came through to watch or comment on the last video about seeing a new upload after a year. Those are fun to read. We're just going to try to keep some consistency going on the channel, and yeah, let's just go into the video. The first player on here is Shay GildersAlexander, and he's going to be asked to carry the Oklahoma City Thunder's offense this year. Now, if OKC is bad, it's not going to mean anything, of course. There's no real pressure because they want one of the top picks in the 2021 draft, but as an individual player and for his next long-term contract, Shay needs to have another year of improvement. Chris Paul is gone, Dennis Schroeder is gone, Steven Adams is gone. That familiarity he had with those guys on offense won't be there, and he's going to have a lot of minutes on his own to make something happen. He's going to be the #1 shot taker on most nights. You hear a lot about how SGA is up next. He could be one of the better guards in the league, maybe a future all-star year in and year out. But is he more of a primary creator or a secondary creator within an offense? On the Clippers and his 1 year in OKC, he sometimes took control, but was mainly 3rd in the pecking order on the floor. So Shay's regular per game numbers were pretty good in his 2nd year. He took the next step in his development. He put up 19 points, averaged 3 assists, and finished with a true shooting percentage of 57. That true shooting number was slightly above the league average and is a pretty good number for a 2nd year player. He definitely proved he can be a part of a good 5-man unit that can compete for home court in the playoffs. But the question going forward is, can he eventually be the 1st or 2nd guy on a successful team? What will Shay look like without his Hall of Fame point guard and his 6th Man of the Year runner-up? We did get a look at it, but it was a small sample size. In the 135 minutes he played without CP3 or Schroeder, those minutes weren't that great. He did put up more points per game and assists per game, but his shooting efficiency took a big hit. It went from 57% to 49%, which is well below the league average. You cannot lead a successful offense with that type of efficiency, you just can't. How SGA shoots and passes as the #1 perimeter guy will control where OKC falls in the standings. He does have some respectable players with him. George Hill and Al Horford will provide some stability on offense. I don't think OKC will make a play-in playoff game, but if Shay is really good, maybe they're like the 5th worst team in the league instead of the 2nd worst. To me, Shay is more of a secondary playmaker, you know, your 3rd best offensive player rather than your #1, but that's why we play the games. He's going to have a lot of opportunity to take shots, so we'll find out what type of player he is long term. If this Boston Celtics team does anything significant at all this season, it's because Jayson Tatum made the leap from an All-NBA 3rd-team player to a top 5 MVP candidate. There's a lot of pressure on Tatum to carry a Boston offense where they lost Gordon Hayward in free agency, and Kemba Walker will miss the beginning of the year and will probably be on some type of minutes restriction when he's back. The Kemba injury is a big problem here because they're relying on Jeff Teague, who I don't think will be that good, and Peyton Pritchard, who I hear a lot of great things about, but at the end of the day, he is a rookie and will have moments where he struggles. Without Kemba, teams are going to be able to load up on Tatum with no problem. There's a lot of guys you can just disrespect as shooters, and that's what's going to happen when you have Semi Ojeleye as one of your better wing players off the bench. The Celtics are going to need to win games through their defense, and Tatum got better on that end last year. If Tatum can average around the 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists on decent efficiency that he put up in the playoffs, with even better defense for the first 2 months of the season, I think that would be good. Boston is going to have some trouble scoring even when Tatum is on the floor, but if he can make up for it with getting stops on and off the ball, Boston can be pretty good for the first 2 months. Steph Curry is going to have to do a lot for this Warriors team to compete for home court advantage in the playoffs. Even if Klay Thompson never got injured, you're asking a lot out of literally everyone not named Steph. They're all being asked to do more than they ever had in their career. Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre need to be plus two-way players all year. You're asking a rookie center to be impactful. Rookies, even in their bright spots, have bad moments during the year. I like some of the players on here, like Oubre, but it's going to be a lot. You're asking Draymond to not only play like he did 2 years ago, but have more responsibility as a scorer and playmaker with less spacing around him. And I just read he's doubtful for the opener against Brooklyn, which means he might have nagging injuries all year. What this team does have going for them is that they are really athletic and long. Those old Warriors teams had secondary players with athleticism and speed, so they have that going for them next to Steph. If Steph is healthy and plays, 35 minutes a game, he will make this team a top 10 offense just by walking over the half-court line alone. Defenses can't let him get going for his pull-up three or dribble drives. He'll be able to find Oubre and Wiggins on cuts if teams get too aggressive trapping him. There's a high level of stability that Steph will bring to the offense when he's on the floor, no matter who else is next to him. Whether Golden State is a dangerous 3rd or 4th seed or a 6th or 7th seed, it's going to depend on how many flaws Steph can cover up by himself. The next guy I have on here is Jrue Holiday. The Milwaukee Bucks traded for him earlier this month and now do not control their first round picks in 2024, 2025, 2026, and 2027. The counter argument to not having Jrue Holiday on here is that no matter what happens, Giannis is going to decide whether this Bucks team stays as a pretty good conference finals team or an NBA finals contender year in and year out. Jrue is really good, but the blame or praise is going to go to Giannis. He's not going to have to technically carry this team. Jrue Holiday is way better than Bledsoe and makes the team better. The Bucks now have one of the better trios in the league. Their 2 non-Giannis players can create on the perimeter, and you can't disrespect Jrue's shot like you could Bledsoe. I'm just not really that big of a fan of their backup guards. DJ Augustin can shoot, but he was really bad last year, and he's 5'11", and will not be able to guard anyone in the playoff rounds that matter. Bryn Forbes is a nice offensive player and a bit bigger than Augustin, but again, he's not good on defense either. Pat Connaughton is fine in the regular season, but not in a playoff series against Miami or Brooklyn. Dante DiVincenzo is good and will probably start. The previous guard rotation with George Hill and Wes Matthews had more defense. I do not see how Coach Bud will be able to play these guys other than DiVincenzo big minutes in the playoffs, which means Jrue is going to have to carry the guard spot all year and in the playoffs, which I think he will be able to do. If you remember in the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals, Malcolm Brogdon came back from an injury and he got a lot of dribble drives going that saved possessions for Milwaukee. He was carrying the offense at times when Giannis and Middleton could not get going. That's what's going to be Jrue's role this year in the playoffs if Giannis still struggles in the half court and Middleton can't get going. Jrue is going to have some pressure to create in those tight moments in the playoffs, and when you factor in all the picks they traded to get him, he does have some pressure to carry. When someone talks about carrying a team, it's usually reserved for guys that I mentioned earlier, someone who's going to have to carry on offense. But what about someone who will determine whether their team is a great defense? And that is Robert Covington, who now plays for the Portland Trail Blazers. Portland has 2 small guards that play big minutes in CJ and Dame, and they have a big center that doesn't move well on the perimeter. I wouldn't say they're complete liabilities on defense, but they aren't reliable stoppers in a hypothetical second round playoff series. Nobody on the other team is saying, oh, we can't attack those guys. We know they're going to look great offensively. This is a top 5 offense at the end of the regular season, so that means the playoff ceiling for this team somewhat leans on Robert Covington. They don't have enough defensive versatility to make up for an injury or decline in his game. I know in that OKC playoff series, Robert Covington did not have a fun time trying to move laterally against their small guards, but he's still an awesome off-ball defender and is going to get asked to turn this defense around and make up for the mistakes other guys make. The last guy I got on here is Luka Doncic, and after last season, Luka has put himself in the top 7, top 10 players in the league, wherever you have him. He's proving that he can be the #1 guy on a championship team. But without Kristaps Porzingis to start the year, the Mavericks are relying on Luka to once again lead the best offense in the NBA with pick and rolls at the top of the key every time down the floor, and he's capable of doing that again. Basically a James Harden style offense to get the Mavericks to go from a 7th seed to a team that gets home court in the first round. He's the only actual guy you can trust to do it on this team. The roster from a fit standpoint makes sense again. He has a bunch of secondary creators around him and defenders that know their role and will let Luka shoulder the offense all season. If the Mavericks stagnate this year or worse, it'll be because Luka wasn't able to make this an all-time great offense, but I don't see that happening. At the very least, he's going to be a top 5 MVP finisher and the Mavericks will finish 7th or higher. And that is it for players who I think have some pressure to put their teams on their back at times during the year. Appreciate it if you made it to the end of the video. Not sure what the next one will be, but I got a few general ideas, so I'll see you guys soon.